Welcome to the Divine Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Christina Aroche, and together we are walking the path of discovering your true self and the alignment with your soul. Through these conversations, you will experience a deeper level of connection with yourself and the universe, and most importantly, you will trust in your spiritual journey ahead. Let's begin. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Divine Connection Podcast. Today, we are talking about something a little bit different and really diving into the conversation in terms of our connection to our ancestors and how what we carry now in terms of our DNA, our bloodline, who we are, how that supports us and impacts us living in our true potential. And I want to start this off by, sharing how a lot of the times, and I know that for me in my work, a big chunk of it has always been, talking about the spiritual connection, about energy, about our soul and how we are connected to the divine, connected to God, connected to the angels, all of those things. And all of those are still very relevant and important and part of this journey. And I also feel that it's important to bring to the table this part of it where we are talking about our humanity and talking about our ancestry and the fact that we are living, breathing human beings who have blood, sweat, DNA, all of the things. And that physically this gets passed down from generation to generation to generation. And there's something to be said, beyond talking about genetics, obviously, right? Like through genetics, we obviously can see the composition of how each of us are so unique and have different hair color and eye color and this and that and whatever. But it's also talking about taking it to a deeper level and talking about the different patterns and cycles and experiences that get passed down that are not as obvious in the sense of like, someone who has curly hair has curly hair, the curly hair gene in their bloodline, but more so about the experiences and the patterns that we go through in our everyday life and that aren't always necessarily talked about in this context or in this, link between, our ancestors and what's been passed down to us, but that is very much connected to our bloodline and very much connected to our DNA. And also how that is actually all connected and all comes together to support us in living in our true potential. At the end of the day, this is one of the things that I want you to remember from this conversation is that whatever either generational trauma or patterns or cycles or whatever that you have witnessed or experienced or noticed in your lineage, that whatever that experience is that you were born into and that has been passed down to you in some shape or form, it is something that is not meant to hold you back or a curse or anything like that. This is something that you are chosen to transcend. This is something that is a sacred part of our individual soul's experience here on earth that was all meant to be part of the overall greater picture for your soul's journey, for your evolution to become who you were meant to be. And so I know that sometimes there can be a tendency, it's very easy for us to go into victimhood. And I've definitely done this. Like I have been many times in a place where I've been like, ugh, like if only I didn't have that experience as a kid, or if only like this wasn't in my lineage, or whatever that thing is. And instead looking at it as, wow, I was chosen to be a part of this specific ancestral lineage so that I can transcend this for my lineage, for my ancestors, for my future generations, right? And seeing how, and I've talked in a previous episode about how when we break our individual patterns, this is how it's the key for us to create a better future for the children of the earth, which, like I said in that episode, regardless of whether or not you have kids, all of the children of the earth they belong to us as a collective. It is our responsibility to support the next generation in whatever shape or form you are called to do so. And it starts with us. It starts with self-reflection. I went into that in the last episode. So if you have not seen that, go check that out after you listen to this one. What I want to go into this one, though, is to really outline the 4 key ways, or the 4 key steps, I should say, that you can walk through in order to support yourself in living in your true potential, and how it's all related to your ancestral lineage. And like I said before, the key thing that I want you to know, and I really feel like the ancestors come through with this, and they're sharing this message that it's not about the fact that, that you have to pick up the pieces after them, or you were left to clean up this mess. Because I know that could be a thing too, that we think like, oh God, like my ancestors really left me with a mess to clean up here. Why? But instead looking at it as you were positioned perfectly for this. You were meant to do this. And thinking about how everything is just so beautifully divinely timed, with the fact all the way from your birth date and your birth time, and how your soul chose to come here at this specific time when the planets were aligned in this specific way, that you were going to be here during this specific time frame because of what is meant to happen in terms of the evolution of humanity, the rise of consciousness on Earth, and everything that's going on right now in the world as we speak. And so knowing that, it puts you in a space where, instead of feeling like, ugh, like here's another heavy weight or thing that I have to work through, instead it empowers you to recognize that you have the free will, you have the power, you are capable of doing this. You were meant to do this. You were meant to transcend those patterns. You were meant to break those cycles, because it's not just about you, even though you, of course, are going to benefit from that. But it's not just about you. It's about how this influences and creates a ripple effect all through your lineage, all through the future generations. Everything around you is impacted by this. And so the first step in this is to begin to bring your awareness to the patterns. And there are two key places where we will notice this the most. It's not limited to these 2 key places, but these are big ones. And the first one where you'll notice this pattern, where you're going to bring your awareness to see what ancestral patterns, experiences from your lineage are influencing this specific area. And so the first area is your financial state and your relationship with money. So that's going to be the first place where you're going to see these patterns show up, or you're going to see the cycles, and just in general, your perspective and viewpoint and connection with that part. The second place that is very, very common are in our relationships. And I would even go as far as to say a subcategory within the relationships is going to be through parenthood. And I only say that because of my personal experience right now, as I am raising 2 small children, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can see so many of these patterns and things like coming forward within them. And so that's like a subcategory that we'll just set to the side. But really, it's all relationships, the way that you relate in romantic relationships, the way that you relate in friendships, the way that you relate in all different ways to other human beings. So money and relationships, these are the 2 big places that you're going to begin to look at, and bring your awareness to how you relate to those things, what patterns you see, what cycles you've been through, that you've experienced, that you've become aware of, and beginning to look also at what did you witness in other people within your lineage, for example, your parents, or even your siblings, your grandparents, that kind of thing. So that's going to be the first part in this, that you're going to just witness, recognize your patterns, bring your awareness to that. Then the second step is, of course, breaking the patterns. And there's a lot of different ways in which you can do this. And the way that I teach this, the way that I go about doing this, within myself personally on my journey, and then also this is how I teach it inside of my course called Ancestral Alchemy, is that we connect the mind and the body, and then we also work with energy. And because this is stuff that is inherited, like DNA, our blood, right? Like the physical things, we have to incorporate our body in this. There's no way not to. We can't just go, and this is coming from someone who loves doing energy healing and supporting people with journeys and things like that. But we can't just leave it up to the spiritual realm and that side of it, because that part is actually the least impacted. It is what is held within our bodies that is most impacted by these patterns. And so that's where we have to go in order to break the patterns. So as an example, you can do tapping. That's a really great way to really access what is being stored, the memories that are being stored within your DNA, within your cells, within your bloodline, to begin to shift and to begin to break those patterns. Other ways are physical movement. So that's another really powerful way that you can begin to support yourself, is how you go about connecting your thoughts and the thought patterns and the beliefs in how you connect it with movement directly. So there's a lot of different ways in which you can do this. And of course, there's other modalities out there that support us on a more physical level. But that's what you want to take into consideration, is that it's not just mindset work. It's not just energy healing. You have to somehow incorporate your body into this as well. Okay. And I inside of the inside of the Ancestral Alchemy course, this is where you are going to really notice and see like the power of connecting with your body. I teach you how to do the tapping technique with this, and really being guided into how your body responds to this process, how your body is activated in terms of the healing and in terms of breaking the patterns. The third step is about allowing your true self to come through. So beneath the conditioning, beneath the patterns, beneath it all, your true self is there. Your true divine soul being. And that soul being is the version of you, or the aspect of you that is not impacted by the ancestral conditioning, the ancestral lineage that we take on and that we experience in our human form. So what happens here is that as you begin to break those patterns, it creates this opening. And it's an opening that allows us to begin to see, what is my true self? What is my truth? What is my soul's truth? What is the truth in terms of who I am in this world, and how I function in relationships, how I am with money, how I am in this specific situation. And you can begin to, when it comes to bringing your true self forward, this is an opportunity. It's almost like a clear blank slate, where this is the opportunity for you to reprogram, recondition, bring through this higher level of awareness and how you truly are, what is truly that divine blueprint from yourself, which is directly connected to God, directly connected to the divine, and that source of energy of love that leads us and guides us into everything that we do, the true nature of our abundance, the true nature of how we show up, our compassion, our love, our support, our respect, all of those things in our relationships. And beginning to see that when you bring through your true self, the way that you show up in your everyday life in those specific circumstances begins to change as well, because you're no longer quote unquote trapped within the patterns of the ancestral lineage, because you have done the work to alchemize it. You've done the work to transcend it. You have done the work to transform it. It is there for you to transform. It is there for you to break those patterns, break that cycle, so that you can bring through a new way of being. And when you bring through a new way of being and you're embodying that energy, what happens is that what is then passed down, or what is then brought forward as the ripple effect, is different. And now you're changing the frequency of even where you're vibrating at, you're changing the frequency of what other people experience, and that creates a whole ripple effect that is all rooted in you doing this work to alchemize that energy. Okay, so that's the third step, is allowing your true self to come through and really beginning to recognize what that is, what that looks like, how that feels, what is the energy, what is the new template for yourself, essentially. And then the fourth step is living in the embodiment. So when we live in the embodiment of our true self, when we live in the embodiment of these higher frequencies and the truths and the beliefs that are actually in alignment with who you are, now it's like you've opened up this whole pathway to live in your highest potential. And what does it mean to live in your highest potential? It means to be who you were always meant to be, to embody the gifts, to share your gifts, to live in your desires, to create them, to experience joy, love, peace. And all of those things get to be created on this journey as we learn and practice and bring through who we truly are. And so sometimes we can get trapped in not allowing our true self to come forward simply because we are stuck in a cycle or stuck in a pattern, etc. And this is the process. This is the steps to take in order to break through that and to support yourself in really just living the life that you were meant to live. So these are the steps. This is the framework. And like I said, I really want you to think about this in the sense of you were meant to do this. Like, I want you to walk away from this episode and thinking like, I've got this. Like, I was meant to break through this. And as I break through this, I am creating a whole new experience for my lineage. And this is the power of ancestral alchemy. And so I'm really excited to invite you into this program, this course that I have open right now. It's available right now for a limited time. So doors are closing, but right now they're open. And so ancestral alchemy, like I've mentioned, it is the step-by-step process. I walk you through this. I teach you how. I share the guided meditations and the guided body practice and all of the things, everything that you need to support you through this process. And the beautiful thing about this, and this is the feedback that I've received from students who have taken this course, is it truly like completely brings them to a whole new level, because not only does it introduce them to how to connect and work with their body in a way that they maybe have not done before, or not in the specific way, the way that I teach it, but it also helps them to recognize how they can call on this ancestral energy to support them. Like, you literally get to meet your ancestors and work with them and receive their wisdom. Your ancestors hold so much wisdom. They hold so much knowledge and power to support you. And we have to call on them in order to bring that through to us, so that we can then utilize that to our advantage as we go through this. So if you're interested in learning more about ancestral alchemy, you can find all of the details below in the show notes. And I cannot wait to welcome you into this program. It is truly like incredible. It is so powerful. And especially for those of you who have been on that quest to be breaking patterns, to be shifting the energy, to break the cycles, to move forward into your true potential, you are going to find so much inside of this course. And so I cannot wait to have you. So I would love to hear from you in the comments below this episode. Let me know what your experience is with working with ancestors. I want to hear from you. This is your first time hearing about ancestors and how we can actually really transform those patterns. If you've done ancestral work in the past, I would love to hear from you. And of course, if you have any questions, you can post them in the comments below. And so that is it for our episode today. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, I am sending you so much love and angel blessings, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you once again for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. And if you want to learn more about the Divine Connection podcast, you can go to christinaaroche.com/podcast and learn about how you can be featured on the show.